Now we have our survey displaying correctly and we have a submit button at the bottom, but we need a way of collecting up the answers. And so just as with displaying the question, collecting the answers is going to depend on the type of question. And I'm going to use polymorphism here again. So just like each question object has a toHTML method, it's also going to have a getAnswers method. So I'll start with the easy one, which is just an empty question with no answers. So this dot getAnswers is a function that returns an empty object. And this is an assignment statement, so it should really end in a semicolon, and same here. Let me go through and do all of those. So all of these method definitions, whoops. So this dot toHTML equals and then a function. One more. And I think that's it. Oh, nope, this one too. There, that's it. So empty object here. And then for a multiple choice question, what we're going to do is when we created this input box, we want to be able to get back all of the input boxes associated with this particular question. And so I need to have an ID somewhere where I can get the inputs. So let's go ahead and put this whole thing, this ordered list rather, let's give it an ID. And I'm going to use the title for the ID, like so. So let's go ahead and check this out. I'm going to reload, and then I'm going to make a multiple choice question. Actually, let's go here. So here's a multiple choice question. Question 12. So now the title is housing ownership. So if I do question 12.toHTML, I see that this OL here has ID housing ownership. So if I do document.getElementById housing ownership, that gives me this OL. And it's actually this one right here. So you can see it light up. And then if I want to get all the inputs inside of this housing ownership, I want these input type radio buttons here. I can say document.getElementById housing ownership dot get elements by tag name input. And that returns an HTML collection with two inputs in it. So here's input 1 and here's input 2. And then each of these inputs is going to have some attributes on it. It's going to have a name and a value. Let's actually look at it in HTML. So this first one is that. And we can see that it has a type, a name, and a value. So what I want to do is I want to store whether this radio button is checked or not as a property on an object, and I want the key to be the value. So it'll be something like rent : false. So that's what I'm going to get from this input. So let's go ahead and in survey, for multiple choice question, this dot getAnswers is a function, and it's going to have answers is an empty object. And then I'm going to go ahead and create a local variable for the inputs. And that's going to be document get element by ID, title, dot get elements by tag name. And notice that's S there because it's going to return multiple things. Input. And then for now, let's just return inputs so I can test it. Okay, and then let's set question 12 to that, and then we'll say question 12 dot get answers. So there's my inputs collection, so that part's working. And then what we want to do is for counter equals 0, counter less than inputs dot length, counter plus plus, answers sub inputs sub counter dot value equals inputs sub counter dot, and this is a radio button, so let's go ahead, and I believe it's going to be selected. So let's see if there's a selected property here, which should be true for the first one. No, it's not selected. Is it checked? So it's checked. Okay. So checked. So the first one checked should be true, and the second one checked should be false. So let's say var inputs is that. Input sub 0 dot checked is true. Input sub 1 dot checked is false. Input sub counter dot checked. And then I'm going to return my answers array. So let's reload, and I'm going to go ahead and define a question 12, and I'll check own, and then I'll call question 12 getAnswers. So I get back an object with a rent property which is false and an own property which is true. So that's getAnswers for multiple choice question. And then multiple choice question other is also going to inherit this method. So I'm going to go ahead and var super get answers equals this dot get answers, and then my this dot get answers is going to start by calling super get answers dot call this. So the first thing I do is get the selected options, and then in addition I have an other box here, so I want to add a property for other where the value of that property is going to be whatever text was in the box. So I'm going to put an ID here as well. And there are going to be multiple other input boxes on this form, one for each other question. And so I need some way of identifying that I mean this one. So what I'm going to use for the ID is actually a combination of the title plus underscore other. So that's going to be the ID. Close off the ID, and then the rest is the same. So then if I want to get that, it's going to be var input equals document get element by ID title plus underscore other. And then answers sub other, make it a capital, equals value, input dot value. And then return answers, and that's my function. So basically, multiple choice question other just does the same thing as multiple choice question, plus it gets the value of the input box and also returns that. So let's try that. We have a multiple choice other somewhere, I think. Right, question 11. So let's reload. And let me copy that. Paste. So now question 11 dot get answers. So right now nothing's checked, so these are all false. We open it up. There's an other property that's empty. So let's go ahead and find that one. So I'll check house, and I'll add, you know, what would be other? Automobile. So now I see that house is true, all the rest are false, and then other has this automobile value. So that's returning the correct object. And then these other ones are going to be the same, so checkbox is used checked as well. So this is going to be my multiple select question. It's going to have the same method. And I could actually create a subclass of question that has this method, but I'm not going to bother right now. I'm just going to leave this as is. And then multiple select question other, super get answers equal this dot get answers, and then multiple choice question other, copy that. Okay, and I forgot a semicolon there, so let's go through and do the semicolons again. I think that's the only one I'm missing. Good. So let's check multiple select question other. So here's a multiple select question other, question 1. Reload question 1. Get answers. Oh, get elements by tag name of null. Oh, I didn't save. Let me save it. Now reload. There's my question, get answers. All right, so let's go ahead and click there. So inputs is document.getElementById by ID title. I forgot to add that to the HTML. I need to tag this OL with an ID as well. So I think I'm going to need to do that for both. Multiple select. So ID equals double quote title plus double quote, and then do the same thing here. Oh, actually, yeah, that's all handled in the super method, so I don't need to worry about it here. Alrighty, let's try it again. So I got farther. So I also need to tag answers sub other is input.value. Yeah, so I need to tag that other box as well. So here's how I tag the other box. So here's how I'm going to tag this input box. There. So now this input has an ID title underscore other as well. And it works. Okay, so those are all false. So let's check all that apply. So we'll go part-time student and part-time faculty, part-time staff, other, chief cook, and bottle washer. And then if we get answers again, so these are all false, and then part-time faculty, part-time staff, part-time student are all true, and other is chief cook and bottle washer. So that's working fine as well. So I think I have multiple select question. Let's make sure that question 2 works. Did I do question 2 already? Let me double check first. Nope, so I haven't done question 2, so let's do that. So there's question 2, get answers. So that's looking good. And then I'm going to say I go to Rock Creek, Cascade, and Sylvania. So Cascade Campus, Rock Creek, and Sylvania. So that's the multiple choice ones and multiple select ones. And then I also have a short answer. So then short answer, I'm just going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to tag the box with an ID. Actually, I'll just use the title here. So input ID equals double quote plus title plus double quote. Make it a little bigger. And then my get answer is going to be this dot get answers is function var answers equals empty object, and then input is document get element by ID title, answers sub title equal input.value. and return answers. Okay, so let's try that one. And my short answer is zip code. So let's reload. And then my zip code question is this one. So question 3.getAnswers, zip code which is empty, 97210-9999. And there it is.